Hey, Tom.
Hey, you're all set?
All right, welcome everyone to the May 6th regular meeting of the Board of Estimate and Taxation. Madam Clerk, may I get you to call a roll, please?
Mayor Rilling, Mr. Abrams,
Here?
Mr. Camacho,
Here.
Mr. Constant,
Here.
I just got a text from Harry that he's waiting for a link.
Oh, boy.
Mr. Jelleret,
Here.
Mr. Casimis,
Here.
Miss Yang.
Here.
We have 6 at roll call. Let me send this to the mayor.
I got it.
You did? Okay, thanks,
Irene.
thanks, Tom.
He's on. He's on.
Yep.
Okay.
And let the record show that the mayor joined us at 6:33.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
Madam
you.
Clerk, confirm we have a quorum, correct?
You have a quorum, yes.
Thank you very much. All right, the first item on our agenda tonight is the approval of 3 prior meetings, the minutes, March 28th, April 1st, and April 16th. Can I get someone to please move that item for discussion and
it.
approval? Thank
Move
you,
it.
Artie. Any changes, revisions, amendments to the minutes as provided in our package? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The minutes are approved. There are no special appropriations on our agenda tonight, but there are a few transfer items starting on page 22 of our package. Can I get the transfer items moved for discussion and approval, please?
So moved, Troy.
Thank you, Troy. Tom, do you want to walk us through the transfers, please?
Yeah, not too many this evening. The first round, it's from the police department, and to refresh everybody's memory, this is part of a 1 or 2 month process that Mickey does every year to clean everything up prior to the fiscal year end. They have quite a few of them because they have more accounts than anybody else and more departments. But from that being said, we will, I see Mickey on the line, and Melissa Evans Lepore is also on the line. If one of you guys would like to take it from here.
Tom, it looks like the legislative is the first one. Legislative. Am I seeing that
Oh
correctly?
yeah, there it is. No, you're right. Yes, Tom Livingston to talk to that one. That one is 30,000 coming out of contingency for redistricting consultant. Tom, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Tom.
Good catch,
This
Barty.
item relates to the retention of a outside consultant to help the city with its examination and redistricting of its council boundaries. This was an item that was came about as a result of the charter revision process, and this is something we need to do under state and federal law.
Okay. Tom, I assume that we went out and we looked at various consultants for that particular role before identifying the selected individual or firm?
That's correct. We put out an RFP, and we actually only got one response, but they are turning out to be quite qualified.
Okay. Additional questions on this item?
Yeah. Hi, Tom. It's Troy. What is the timing that for the charter call for this to happen?
For this redistricting?
Yes.
Yeah, the short answer is we want to have it in place in plenty of time for the election of 2025. But the way the timing would work here, assuming the BET approves the transfer and we do a final check on the references, we would hope to sign a contract with this firm in the next few weeks. They will immediately start working, and it's about a 3-month process, give or take 3 or 4 month process, by which they review the current status of the council districts, seeing sort of what they're calling an as-is review to see where we are and where there might be deficiencies. And then they'll move from there, getting public input along the way and working with the council's redistricting commission they're going to be setting up.
Will that have to be approved by the voters, or is just since the charter revision was approved, this is just a step continuing that process?
Yeah, well, the charter was revised to provide that this would happen. It doesn't require a specific approval of the public. What's going to happen is the council sets up a commission, a bipartisan commission where I think it's 7 members. And that commission will act independently of the council, will come up with its recommendations based upon the actions of this consultant, bring it back to the council, and they will review it or have comments and approve it.
Thank you.
Additional questions on this item?
Just one more piece of information. We have, we'll get to the contingency tracker later, but we still have 593,000 left in there. So this will take it down to 563.
Thank you, Tom. Okay. Let's go ahead and unless anybody disagrees, let's cover the rest of the transfer items and then approve all at the end. So, Tom, we want to go to police transfers. They're all inside their budget.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Like Director Ellis says, this is like a 3-part process. The bulk is this month and last month, and then there'll probably be some cleanup next month. But it's our annual reprioritization of funds. I know everybody knows this. The budget is constructed 1.5 years ago, and as needs change, we have to cut back spending in some places to make up for things in others. In order to be totally transparent, we split the supply transfers into 2 pieces. One is from various accounts where we curtailed spending. A lot of them are travel related in order to pay for some recruits. It's an academy cost. It's a police academy cost. The other group of transfers is for various items. We had to retool our fire extinguishers. We needed some equipment for the new recruits, and there's some cameras that are in disrepair that needed to be replaced. So that sort of takes care of the supply portion of the program. We have a salary related transfer this month, just sort of my effort and the chief's effort to stay ahead of keeping everything out of the red, in accordance with the fact that we're almost at still full staff and that we've hired, a bunch of people this year. We have a little more training overtime that's needed. So because of the intermittent vacancies in the police salary account, we're transferring some of that money to stay ahead of things. 40,000 is going to training overtime. There's 20,000 going to special services overtime. That's a caseload issue. And we're waiting for some reimbursements from the feds. And lastly, 10,000 is going into SVU. And again, that's just a matter of just a slightly increased caseload from what we predicted 1.5 years ago when the budget was submitted. That's kind of the long and short of it. You probably expect to see me back next month with a shorter list, but all in all, the budget and the line items are in good shape.
Thank you, Mickey. Questions for Mickey? Mickey, just one as we start to think toward next week or next month, excuse me. Obviously, this last week likely required a significant amount of overtime. Are you likely to be able to fund that within the budget, or are we going to need to be prepared to look at contingency to fund some of that additional cost?
So that's an excellent question. Director Ellis and I spoke about this even before it was over. We have kept track of the exact amount. I don't have the total yet. I know it's a lot of money. There could be a possible reimbursement, from the state or something like that. I think that's still being looked at. Void of that, that would probably be sort of an end of the year thing where I would scour every penny that's left in the department and the salary accounts and the overtime accounts and try to cover it. But we are hoping for some sort of a reimbursement. We've recoded all that overtime so it can be dissected from the regular overtime and presented electronically and as a hard copy.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for hearing me.
Right. I believe that's everything on the transfer agenda for this evening. Any additional questions or comments related to the proposed transfers? All in favor of the transfers as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The transfers are approved.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mickey.
Thank you.
And just
Alright.
as a side note on the I-95 fire, we set up, or Chitsmay actually set up accounts for anybody who had any expenses. So that covers the police and fire, public works, transportation, mobility and parking. So anything that comes along, whether it's overtime or food that they ordered, in the middle of the night for when they were working. So we will be able to capture those costs very easily. And we will likely get audited, much like a FEMA event. So some lessons learned. We keep very good care and diligence on all those expenses.
Thank you, Tom. Glad to hear it. All right. Next on our agenda is other business, starting on page 29 of our package. And first in the other business is a capital resolution. Can I get the other business items moved for discussion and approval, please? Thank you, Artie. All right, Madam Clerk, do we want to read the resolution into the record, please?
Or resolution making appropriations for various public improvements aggregating 70,217,280 for the fiscal year 2024 to 2025 capital budget, and authorizing the issuance of 70,217,280 general obligation bonds of the city to meet certain appropriations in the fiscal year 2024 to 2025 capital budget.
Okay.
Do
Tom?
you want me to read B, C? No, that's it, right? Just the
No,
letter.
just
Yeah, no, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Tom,
Yeah, so this is, sorry, Ed.
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, this is step one in a multi-step process for authorizing us to borrow money, usually in the August timeframe to fund the projects that we just approved, as well as projects that were previously approved and are in the pipeline and need to be funded for. So once it's done here, it'll go to finance and claims, and then it'll go to the full common council. But the number you see here, the 70.2 million, is what was approved by the council in the final step of that process. We've also attached a list of all the approved projects. And you can see on the last page, the total is 70.2 million. And that includes the two enterprise funds, WPCA and parking. So those two items, it comes out to 45.4 million for the city and the Board of Education. Board of Ed is 8 million, so that brings it down to 37 million for the city only.
Thank you. Questions regarding this particular item?
Mr. Chairman, Ed Destroy, just a comment. I just want to say that, yes, we made it through. I have no problem with this capital budget that we arrived at. Just want to make it a statement that going forward over the next 4 years, especially with the phase-in, that we should continue to be vigilant with what we look to add into this capital budget. And I think we already talked about the timing, that the items that should be put in here should be longer than 1 year. I think we were looking probably more like 3-year type time frame for things. But just want to continue to be vigilant. We still have a lot of moving parts over the next couple of years. I feel a lot better with the meeting we had with our bond counsel, but we still really have to keep our vigilance going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Additional comments?
Is this the largest issuance that we have done to date as a city of Norwalk?
Well, it's the largest approval that I've seen, and what was it, is my third cycle through the capital budget project. We were running in the 40 to 50 range for
Right.
quite some time. Yeah, so but it isn't necessarily reflective of how much we're going to borrow in August. Recall that that is reflective of not only, you know, what we just approved, but also what we are going to have to fund over the next year based on the cash flow projections that all the departments do. So somebody may get approved for a $3 million project with this vote, but they may not necessarily do it for a year or two, or they may not need the cash to pay for it right away. So they wouldn't include that in their quarterly cash analysis.
So we don't know until August how much we're going to go.
Well, yeah, we're going through the process right now of gathering up everyone's cash flow estimates. And if it comes out to more than we think we can reasonably borrow, we'll tell people, you know, we either have to reduce some things or we have to push them out and delay them.
So are we approving right now for $70 million in issuance or $70 million in capital expenditures, which could be could be bonded.
Right, yes, the latter.
The latter.
So we could end up bonding $70 million based
Okay.
upon.
Yeah.
Yes, think of that as a potential bonding cap, if you would.
I'm looking through Exhibit A, and there are still things in here which I don't think should be part of capital improvements to be bonded. So I'm not comfortable approving a $70 million debt issuance based on this exhibit of capital budget appropriations and effectively giving a carte blanche at this point of time for $70 million of issuance, which will take us to $520 million.
We won't necessarily have to bond for everything depending on what our cash on hand is. So if you look at some of these projects that are, you know, $11,000 or $22,000, we may have enough cash on hand that we don't have to bond for those. So it's not necessarily everything that has to be bonded for.
Well, can we vote on this when we have a better sense of how much is going to be bonded?
Again, and this starts the process of doing that work. We pass this resolution, it goes to the Finance and Claims Committee and then to the Common Council for that scrubbing, if I have my process correct. So please check me if that's incorrect, Tom.
No, you're on point.
Well, this has already also been reviewed by the Common Council, and a couple of very small changes were made. And again,
I take your point, and though that we have talked many times about our things in this budget truly capital expenses. And we can and should note that that work still should be, we should advise Finance and Claims to continue to scrub that list. But in order to do that, we need to pass this resolution so that they can do that line item work, is the way I understand this.
And I know, Mr. Chair, I know that we talked about providing the board with and we're still working on that. We're in the process of we have all the documents, revised documents back from the departments. We're going to start meeting with them this week to revise and their cash flow estimates. But also in that time, and I would say before the next year's process starts, the capital budget process starts, we're going to be looking at some other changes to defining what's a capital project better, and getting to part of what your point is, and some of the items that that I think you're talking about in here that, you know, that may look like they don't belong, but as Tom said, if there are things that, that we have taxed for, they will not be bonded, but going forward, starting, next year, we'll have capital expenditure that's better defined and look at removing some of those things that you may be concerned about in this year.
Thank you, Jared.
Can we start this process without actually having to vote on the dollar amount and have a sense of the dollar amount and vote on a dollar amount when we have a better sense? Because, okay, two things. This is the largest debt issuance that this city has done in probably a couple, I don't know for how long, but a lot longer. That's number one. Number two, this takes us to 5/20. And despite the fact that we had a very good presentation from our bond counsel, he is our counsel, and it's not the rating agency. So this takes us well over where we had up until a month or two ago believed was our cap on what we could do from a rating agency standpoint and not lose our AAA. So it's not as if we have a lot of debt capacity to do this, and we're coming very close to what one might perceive as risking. We're coming very close to being tight on our rating agency process. So I would like to see if there is some other, I agree to start the process, but I'm not sure I agree to give a carte blanche to a $70 million debt issuance based upon what I'm seeing right now in this Exhibit A, which still includes stuff which are clearly operating expenses and not capital expenses.
Understood. And when we get to the point of voting on the resolution, you can express your point of view with a vote. But I know of no other way to start this process than as has been identified here, which is setting basically a bonding cap for the Finance and Claims Committee to begin their work.
Can we?
You've made your points known. Any additional points from anyone? That being said, all in favor of the resolution as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstentions? Resolution passes 6-1 if I've done my count correctly. Thank you. All right, moving on, the next item of other business is the operating budget. May I get that moved for discussion and vote, please? Thank you, Kendrick. All right. Tom, Jared, you want to go through the changes here for your email of last week, excuse me.
Sure.
Yeah, you want to take this, Jared? Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to set the foundation for this, and then I can talk about the changes?
Sure. So you can see on the handout that what you voted for last time on April 17th totaled $435.2 million. Since that time, we've gotten new information related to pensions as well as investment income. So a little bit on the expense side and some on the revenue side as well. So it's up $906,000 on the pensions, and the investment income was up $4 million from $1 million to $5.5 million. And Jarrett can get into some of the mechanics behind both of those items.
So it's a good news, bad news, a lot more good news here for the budget. And when the budget was originally being developed, and this happens very often in municipalities, the actuaries come forth and they based on data that they have, they're able to give an estimate of what the pension ADEC is going to be. And as you know, there are 4 different pension plans. And so at the time, what was budgeted was the amount that the actuaries estimated. Unfortunately, shortly after the last vote on the budget, when it was adopted, we got the final version from the actuaries. And that amount, as Tom mentioned, was $906,000 more across all 4 of the pension plans. So that's the bad news. That's the bad part of this for the city. On the investment income side, we reached out to the firm that does our invests our cash, the city's cash, and asked them to go into a little more detail and what we could expect to get in returns given the yields that are out in the market now. And they came back and so this is what we're budgeting. We're adding $4 million. It was 1.5 that was in the budget that was adopted, and we're adding 4 million to that. So the net, it's about a $3.1 million to the good. So about 900,000 of it would be used to cover the additional cost for pension, and the remaining amount, remaining 3.1 million would go toward providing a little bit of relief compared to what had been adopted in the budget for the taxpayers. You know, and normally there may have been different ways to handle this, and possibly could have dealt with the spending item during the budget year, but given the timing of when we got it, and also the importance to us getting back to the bond rating and the rating agencies, they'd like to see that we're fully funding our ADEC. And so we thought it was important to actually reflect it in this budget that we're in fact doing that. And so we thought it was important to present this to you for your consideration to fund that, add that appropriation. It will remain underneath the cap that the Common Council set. And will allow us to, when we present to the rating agencies and go to issue bonds, that we can represent that we fully funded 100% of the ADEC for next year.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, sorry.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Jared or Tom, I think it's really important to note the level of funding of our pension funds. I think our city is probably funded to a greater degree or a greater percentage than most. And I think it's because of responsible budgeting. Could you tell us approximately what percentage we have funded of our pension plans?
I think we're above 80% on the 2 big ones, which would be well, actually there are 3 big ones: the city side, the police, and the fire, and then the smaller food service workers. And I know one of them is over 100%. But regardless, you know, Bill Lindsay has said on a number of occasions that if it's not the highest level in the state of Connecticut for a municipality, it's pretty darn close to it. So the rating agencies really count that as a very, very strong, favorable item. But one thing I'll add is one of the things the rating agencies check is to see if you are funding your pensions based on what your actuaries say. So if they had come in and said, you need to put $100 in, and we chose to only put in 95, that would be a ding on the scorecard, if you will. So we had what they had recommended before, and now they took it up another 900, and we intend to do that so that the rating agencies continue to look favorably on how we react to their recommendation on an annual basis.
And seeing how we're still talking budget, and just kind of a step back a little bit to the capital, and I think it was Troy or somebody mentioned about how much this is going to cost, the bridge was going to cost the city of Norwalk or whoever, and the overtime. I just got something from Governor Lamont, Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg has authorized $3 million in quick release funds so that we can start using that to offset the costs of the bridge replacement. Now, having said $3 million in quick release funds, I think we can feel pretty confident that there's going to be more money coming from the federal government to help cover the costs and defray the costs. That includes overtime for police, overtime for fire, any other kinds of equipment usage. One is the foam that we have to replace. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Questions or comments on the revisions to the operating budget?
I just have
Mr.
one more
Chairman.
quick, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just want to, if you're wondering how this impacted the last round of mill rates that you saw, it comes out to, well, let's call it $100 per district. So it's a low of $60 and a high of 193 in terms of the overall reduction to the mill rates. And the numbers I just gave you, the median tax bills for each of the districts are down 100 and change, if you will.
Thank you, Tom. Questions? Troy?
Mr. Chairman, it's Troy. Couple of things. Yes, I agree 100%, Jarrett, with your explanation. As we were told by our bond counsel last month or a couple of weeks ago, this is a very important component in the scorecard, and this will offset, probably this could definitely going to be a positive thing to offset some of the debt levels that we're going to be approaching. So I have no problem with that. Tom, what was our final rainy day fund draw? I don't see it listed here. I might be missing it, but
yeah, it's
what was the
8
amount
million.
that was it 8? Okay.
8 million. Yeah. So right now for fiscal 24, we have 6 million in there, which we have not actually taken yet. And we will make that decision probably sometime in August, once we've paid all of our final bills and determine whether or not we really have to do it either way. So it has not happened yet, and that analysis will take place late July, early August.
Good. And the other thing is the phase-in. In our phase-in, 4-year phase-in, we did anticipate, or we did put in the model, an increase every year, right, for the operating expense, about what, 3%?
3%.
Yep, 3% on both city and Board of Ed.
Okay, once again, I just want to reiterate what I said about the capital budget. We already have a built-in 3% increase going forward. And I, for one, will remain vigilant with that number going forward. I know these numbers obviously look a lot better with the phase-in, but let's keep in mind that there's already a 3% built-in number for each of the next 4 years, if I'm correct. Yes. Okay.
You are correct.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of final, I'm sorry, Ann?
I'd like to make a comment. I agree relative to the pension plan expense because I think it nets out. I would like to just still say that in this budget discussion, we received a lot of commentary from the public. We had a petition that was signed over Easter weekend, over 48 hours, which had over 1,000 signatures that asked the city, the BET, to have a flat budget. Given that we've got the phase-in coming forward and we're looking at, on average, an 8% increase in people's taxes, instead of looking at a built-in working off of 3%, I think we should listen to the public as we said that we would, and work off of next year's budget as being a flat budget year over year, rather than just assuming a 3% increase. Because the phase-in helped from a timing standpoint, but we're still looking at 20-30% increases in taxes for people over time. So I think that we still need to listen to the public. because they're the ones paying the taxes and they're the ones ultimately making the sacrifices out of their personal budget. So I would advocate that we not start with a 3% increase in our budget next year, but a flat budget and see where it goes from there.
Understood. Just recognize the 3% was simply for modeling purposes. It was not a statement of commitment by any way, in any way, shape, or form.
I understand that, but I would advocate we start with 0.
Okay,
And
so,
from there.
so noted. Thank you. Any additional comments? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the operating budget as presented now, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The operating budget is approved. Thank you all very much. Jared, Tom, thank you for the additional explanation tonight. Next item on our agenda is the contingency tracker. Tom, you want me to turn it to you, please?
Yeah, I sort of touched on this earlier. Coming into this evening, we had let's see, 593,000 remaining. We started the year with $1.5 million. Recall that at the beginning of the year, a good chunk of that went to fund the additional school resource officers, but since then it's been quieting down a bit. So with the passing of the $30,000 for the redistricting consultant, that takes us down to 563 with one more month to go in the fiscal year. So I think we're in pretty good shape here. I will add that my intention, or I should say my suggestion, is whatever funds are left here, we consider in the rollover process for the upcoming labor negotiations. So we have we've got a few different models based on what we think the percentage increases will come out, but it's hard to say at this point. So we are seeing statewide anywhere from 2.5% to 3.5% in current negotiations. So right now we're at 2.35%, and that is the aspiration to try to keep it at or as close to that as possible.
Tom, any questions on contingency? All right. Next is the tax collector's report.
Yeah, here's the reason why your packet is a record setter. The suspense, the tax list, the suspense list. So Lisa Biagirelli is here to walk us through that this annual process. So Lisa, take it away. I believe I promoted you, and you can speak as a panelist.
Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Perfect. Good evening. Our suspense transfer, proposed transfer will be the first item that I'm going to address tonight. There will be 2 others, which are what we usually talk about every month in terms of collections in our narrative. But our transfer to suspense is an annual process that the Board of Estimate exercises oversight with. When we transfer items to suspense, we are deeming them by statute uncollectible. It doesn't mean that we aren't going to continue to pursue collection, but it does mean we are basically removing them from the list of assets of the city. Because we either do not have a valid address for a motor vehicle account, that is the lion's share of this list, or in some cases we have companies that have left or been subject to federal bankruptcy filings, and those amounts are uncollectible. This year, the amount that I'm requesting to transfer is actually less than it has been in past years. And it is primarily motor vehicle accounts. What we do with these accounts, even after we transfer them to suspense, we turn them over to a third-party collection agency for skip tracing. And we do collect every month, we collect in suspense collections. We still report these accounts to the Department of Motor Vehicles. So if a taxpayer is attempting to register any motor vehicle in the state in their name, they will be flagged and they will still have to pay their back taxes to Norwalk. This, however, allows me to not have to try to use Norwalk resources to bill when I know I do not have a valid address. So it's an efficiency measure. And it doesn't mean we've completely lost hope, but it does mean we change the way we prioritize our pursuit of these accounts. It's an annual process. We usually come to you either in May or June. And I give you in the narrative that accompanies the itemized list, I do give you like a little synopsis of what we've had in prior years. In some of the prior years, we had a lot of business personal property. We did not have that this year. It was mostly motor vehicles. So that's a good thing. But we are asking, I cannot make this transfer without your approval, without your oversight. So I'd be glad to entertain any questions or concerns you have. Otherwise, we would ask you to approve the transfer so we can proceed.
One
Mr.
moment,
Chairman?
I need somebody to move the suspense.
So moved, so moved,
Thank you.
Ed. I was gonna say that.
And Mr. Chairman, we have noticed significant influx of people from out of state moving into the city of Norwalk. And Jared, could you explain the process that we are now having an RFP for regarding motor vehicle taxes?
Sure. Yeah, so we just started the process of going to contract with the firm to come to the city and be able to go throughout the city and be sure that the people who should be paying motor vehicle taxes are. I know that other cities do this. I believe the city of Waterbury does this every year. But
I think Stanford might do it as well, I'm not sure.
Purchasing director. And Stanford, just recently, I think, started doing it. And so the idea would be to catch anyone who has registered their vehicle out of state or out of town, but it maintains their vehicle here in Norwalk. And so to be able to make sure that we don't have some tax-paying residents who are effectively footing the bill for people who are getting by really cheating the system. So that's the idea.
And
so
I believe they work on a
expecting that we
percentage.
will-
Yeah, as I said, I believe they work on a
RFP for
percentage
that.
basis. We don't pay them unless they find people who are avoiding the taxes, so they take a percentage of that amount.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
Additional questions or comments on the transfer to suspense? All in favor then of the transfer as presented by Lisa for $489,800 basically, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the transfer is approved, Lisa.
Thank you. Would you like me to proceed to the next two items?
Yes, please.
Which are mine. Okay, thank you. The next two items are in your packet. We had last month's reports because at the time the packet was sent, that was all we were able to do on page 142 and 144. But I did email to you all earlier today. And if with your permission, I'd like to address a little bit more current information for you, which is through the end of the month of April. We closed out our month today and we are at 98.13% of the current levy through the end of April, with 10 months into the fiscal year, 2 months left to go. That's right about where we needed to be, right about where we had hoped to be. You would also note we have a very healthy infusion of prior year collections because we did start working on our tax sale back in November of 2023. We started with about 190 properties, and we are down to 114, and we have not yet even filed our notices of sale. The sale is scheduled for September 9th. We've already collected $2.9 million in back taxes on tax sale properties. So we will continue to work on the sale. We're going to start taking photographs of properties probably next week and the week after. All of the work is done in-house by our staff. We don't hire outside attorneys to do this work. We take it on ourselves. And the website will probably go up around the middle of June. That's the official start of the sale process. At the same time, we're also working on our upcoming levy that you just voted on tonight. So I would like to add, before I forget, and before I entertain any questions you have about my reports, we do require by statute the Board of Estimate members who have voted on the tax rates need to sign our rate bill. This is our annual process that we go through every year. So rather than send individual rate bills out the way we did during COVID, with your indulgence, I would love to have you step into the finance office and sign the rate bill sometime perhaps within the next 10 days or so. We get 2 copies of it and one gets in the permanent record for the city. This is just basically a memorialization of the action that you took tonight. And we need it if we go to court and so forth. So if you'd be good enough to commit to do that for us, we would be grateful for that. That will allow me to collect the money that you need me to collect.
I think that's fine. I've seen head nods, so we'll all be happy to show up at your office and sign.
Thank you. And I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you have about either the narrative or the other things that we're working on here.
Questions for Lisa? Lisa, I just want to again thank you and your team for all of the hard work you do on behalf of the city and everyone here. We could not do what we do without you. Thank you.
Well, we couldn't do it without your support as well, and it's going to be a tricky year, so we appreciate your support as well. I'm very grateful to each of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom, I believe the last item on our agenda for this evening is the Oak Hills report.
Yes, it is, and we have Alan Dutton on the line, who has also been promoted to a panelist, so you should be able to speak, Alan. Take it away.
So, thank you for promoting me. First time I've been invited as a guest, and
It's the new
promoted
process.
through. So, anyway, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. So, Oak Hills is now in its 9th month, fiscal month of operation. We talk about the month of March. So I'll talk about March, and then on a year-to-date basis, obviously we look at revenue, we look at expenses, and then we look at whether we made any money or lost any money. So for the month of March, we were basically on a revenue side, we were $18,000 over our budgeted revenue. The weather was nice, and we got a lot more golfers out there, so much better than January and February, the 2 prior months. From an expense point of view, not quite as good. Our expenses are up $17,000 over budget. So the bottom line for the month was that we actually was budgeted to lose $24,000, and we only lost 23. The reason why our expenses are up was some continuing work we needed to do on the restaurant. After the last tenants had left us, there were issues that we had to take care of, and there were some refrigeration and some other things that we had to do to get it up to speed, so that we could get ourselves up and ready, which I'll talk about a bit later in the report. So overall, okay for the month of March. On a year-to-date basis, we still continue to do quite well. We are $77,000 ahead of our budgeted numbers after 9 months. On the revenue side, our expenses are up about $48,000. So on a bottom line basis, after 9 months, we are $29,000 over our budgeted numbers on an operating basis. So still okay, ahead of budget after 9 months. And now we move into obviously April, May, and June. May and June, 2 of our busiest months, and we remain optimistic we'll be able to hold this number and maybe increase it a little bit. So any questions on the operating of the month of March or on a year-to-date basis?
No.
Okay, just on the second item, we're now finalizing our budget for the fiscal year coming up, starting in the beginning of July. Our revenue is finalized. We're now just working on our expenses, especially on the payroll area and other such things. But obviously, we have to keep a strong eye on our expenses as we move forward, because, you know, we did make the decision to add a general manager's position that obviously added to our payroll. We recently upgraded the assistant green superintendent, Jim Shell's position. We hired someone who actually has a degree in agronomy, and we've upgraded that position. But we do need to be diligent in our expenses as we move forward into next year, because our capital budget next year does call for us to do the first phase of our bunkers, which is a $200,000 project. So you know, by the time we pay the city for the rounds, which is, you know, could be in the region of $120,000, by the time we pay our lease obligations for a lot of the equipment we've bought, you know, then we have to manage our capital budgets as well. So it's something we really have to concentrate on moving ahead next year. But perhaps the best news of the evening, or for us, is that I'm very pleased to announce that as of Friday, Odine's restaurant received its liquor license. Yippee! Thank goodness. So now they can, as of Friday, they have been serving alcohol. We did send out an email saying that Oak Hills is no longer dry. It sounds like a prohibition deal, but anyway, we are good to go. And I've heard some pretty good feedback from the limited time they've been able to do their food service. So that's my report, Mr. Chairman. I'll take any questions that the committee may have.
Questions?
Alan, this is Troy. I just have to say, Mr. Chairman, real quick. I've been fortunate to be able to play the course the last couple of weeks, and I have to say the course is in great condition. Your team is doing a great job. The transparency with regard to the restaurant has been excellent. We've been to the restaurant already. They seemed like they are really enthused, and so far, great job, Alan.
Thank you, appreciate it. Well, hopefully people will support it. I think they will, because they're nice people, nice attitude, friendly, welcoming. So we look forward to it, and not too expensive either, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments for Alan? See none. Thank you, Alan.
Welcome.
Before we close, Mr. Mayor, any closing remarks from you this evening?
No, thank you. Just thank you for the ET for all their hard work, the council, but most especially the department heads who realized that we were facing a challenging year, and they understand. And I look forward at the end of the year that when we reconcile some of the budgets, I'm going to see that most of these departments will come in under budget. So I really appreciate their efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, one more thing I have to say. I want to congratulate the mayor and his team. Did a great job with this tragedy this weekend, and it's just amazing. The first thing I heard, it was going to be 5 to 8 days. 95 was going to be closed. To have it done, and I saw some videos of the fire department taking care of it, being able to handle that right over their wall, in fact, on Route 1. But great job, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And you know, all credit goes to the firefighters who responded. They were there in less than 2 minutes. Police officers helping shut down 95. The governor called me on Thursday morning, told me, yeah, I'm sending down everything we have. They called in other crews that were working in Yonkers, and they were initially saying we might be able to get this open by Monday morning at rush hour. Actually, we opened up the second side, both sides, by 10 o'clock yesterday morning. So it's just remarkable. And now we just have to deal with the building of the bridge, which will probably take somewhere around a year. And unfortunately, that bridge was replaced in 2015 while the state was replacing all their older bridges. And, hey, that's what happens. But, something we deal with. The public was wonderful. They understood. The businesses were wonderful. They understood. It's just, I think everybody came together understanding, look, this happens. Now let's get it done. So thank you.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom, any final remarks before we adjourn?
It's been a long slog. People have the impression that this is a 3 or 4 month process. I call it a 10-month process. We'll be starting again probably late September, early October. So yeah, it was quite a challenge this year, but a lot of cooperation from the departments. You've heard me mention that before. I got zero grief from anybody when we needed cuts. So Obviously a team effort, but I, for one, am happy to be completed.
I understand and thank you very much for all of your leadership through this. And Jared, welcome aboard, and we look forward to your inputs as we go forward. With that, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion.
So moved, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Have a great night, everyone.